The battle for Yellowstone rages on, but a new chapter is about to unfold, one that could change the Duttons' fate forever. Spencer Dutton, the family's last hope, is headed back to Montana. But will he arrive in time to save his family from the greatest threat they've ever faced? The stakes have never been higher, and in this pivotal episode, Spencer must face impossible choices, betrayals, and the very real possibility of losing everything. The clock is ticking, and as the Duttons fight to hold on to what's theirs, the question remains: can Spencer make it home in time to save Yellowstone and everything his family has fought for? Yellowstone Ranch is in ruins. After a brutal attack that left their land bloodied and their people broken, the Duttons are facing their darkest hour. Jacob Dutton, a man who has fought his entire life to protect the land that defines his family, stands among the wreckage of his once proud ranch. His face is weathered, his hands are bloodied, and yet there is no time for mourning. The enemy is still out there, and they're waiting for the Duttons to fall. The sheriff's men have arrived, but they aren't there to offer help. No, they are there to gather evidence, and in the twisted game Whitfield has played, the Duttons are the ones being painted as the villains. Despite the chaos of the battlefield, despite the bodies of their fallen comrades lying in shallow graves, the law is not on their side. It's a trap, and Jacob knows it. If they can't prove their innocence, if they can't convince the courts that they were simply defending their land, then they will be condemned as murderers. The weight of this looming threat threatens to crush the Duttons under the weight of corruption and deceit. Inside the ranch house, Kara Dutton is working tirelessly to keep the family together. She tends to the wounded, bandages the scars of those who fought and bled to protect the ranch, and offers what comfort she can. But she knows that the battle they are facing isn't just about survival anymore. It's about loyalty. The enemy has already taken the first step in making them outlaws, and now the Duttons must fight back with everything they have left. They have no choice but to stand tall, even when the entire system seems stacked against them. Meanwhile, Spencer Dutton, who has been far from the ranch, is about to learn of the devastation that has unfolded in his absence. Far from his family, he's been living a life away from the violence that has plagued the Duttons for generations. But the time has come for Spencer to return to Yellowstone, and as he learns of the attack, the weight of responsibility bears down on him. The stakes are high, and Spencer knows that his return to Montana could be the only chance the Duttons have to survive this war. The question is, will he be too late? Back at the ranch, Jacob and Spencer's brother Jack Dutton share a tense moment, realizing the full extent of their peril. The enemy's influence has spread far and wide, and even the law, which should protect them, has been corrupted by Whitfield's money and power. The system is broken, and the Duttons are left to pick up the pieces. But Spencer's return is their last glimmer of hope. As Jack rides out to find allies, Jacob gathers the family and prepares for the next step in their fight to hold on to everything they've worked for. The war for Yellowstone has only just begun, and Spencer's return is more crucial than ever. With Whitfield closing in on every side, the Duttons must rely on more than just their guns. They must use their cunning, their alliances, and their unshakable loyalty to survive. The battle for the land has shifted into a new phase, and Spencer's journey back to Montana could be the game changer they've all been waiting for. But even as he races towards his family, time is running out, and the cost of failure has never been higher. As the episode unfolds, Spencer's journey is fraught with peril. The road back to Montana is long and treacherous, and every decision Spencer makes could mean the difference between life and death. His return may be the Duttons' last chance, but it's not without its own dangers. Will Spencer arrive in time to help his family, or will the shadow of Whitfield and the law close in, trapping them in a web of lies and manipulation from which there's no escape? The stakes are higher than ever, and the fate of Yellowstone hangs in the balance. As Spencer Dutton rides toward the ranch, the weight of his family's struggles presses heavily on his chest. The once proud Yellowstone Ranch, the land he's always known as home, now lies broken, its future uncertain. His thoughts are consumed by the image of his family's peril. He has fought in faraway lands, facing down enemies on foreign soil, but nothing has prepared him for the battle waiting for him back home. The stakes are personal now. The Duttons' blood runs deep into the soil of Montana, and Spencer's connection to that land is as strong as the roots of the trees that dot the ranch. But it's not just land at risk anymore. It's the very survival of his family. As he rides, Spencer reflects on the life he has led outside of Montana. far from the constant wars and threats that have defined the Duttons' existence, Spencer has sought refuge in distance. He found peace in places untouched by the violence that clings to his family's name. But in this moment, he knows the peace he sought is slipping away. His mind races as he thinks of his family, Jacob, Kara, Jack, all fighting their own battles, all trying to keep the ranch from slipping into the hands of their enemies. Back at Yellowstone, Jacob is doing everything in his power to hold the family together. He has always been the rock, the foundation, but the burden of leadership is growing heavier with each passing day. The sheriff's arrival was no accident. It was part of Whitfield's plan to push the Duttons into a corner, using the law itself as a weapon. And now, the law is threatening to turn against them, painting them as criminals for defending their land. Jacob can't let that happen. If the Duttons are branded outlaws, they will lose more than just land. They will lose everything they've worked for, everything they've fought to protect. Jacob's frustration is palpable as he watches the sheriff's men comb through the wreckage of the ranch. They treat the place like a crime scene, as if the Duttons were the aggressors. It's a farce, but Jacob knows better than to let his anger show. He must remain calm, strategic. Every move now has to count. The sheriff's presence is a reminder of just how dangerous their situation has become. Whitfield's influence runs deep, and even the law has been manipulated into serving his interests. If they can't prove their innocence, if they can't turn the tide, they will be crushed under the weight of Whitfield's power. Jacob exchanges a glance with Spencer's brother, Jack. There's a sense of urgency between them. They know that Spencer's return could be the turning point in this battle, but they also know how dangerous it will be. Spencer isn't just coming back to fight for the ranch. He's coming back to take on a system that has already stacked the odds against them. The question is whether Spencer can arrive in time to make a difference. Spencer's mind is filled with thoughts of his family, but as the journey home drags on, he can't ignore the nagging feeling that something darker lurks in the shadows. The betrayal he's always feared may have finally come to light. There's no way Whitfield could have struck with such precision unless someone inside the Duttons' ranks had given him the details. The knowledge of the ranch's weaknesses, the vulnerabilities, it all came from within. The thought of a traitor in their midst sends a chill down Spencer's spine. Who could it be? And what would their betrayal cost? As the sun sets and the road ahead remains long, Spencer's determination solidifies. He will not stand idly by while Whitfield attempts to tear down everything his family has built. But even as he rides, there's a sense of impending danger. Whitfield is not a man who takes defeat lightly, and if Spencer doesn't hurry, he risks arriving too late to change the course of the battle. The clock is ticking, and the Duttons' survival is hanging by a thread. Back at the ranch, Kara is busy in the background, organizing the wounded, strategizing with Jacob, and quietly managing the growing tension in their camp. She knows that their situation is precarious. They're surrounded by enemies, both within and without. The law might be working against them, but Kara has always known that survival in the Dutton family isn't just about brute force. It's about strategy, about using every advantage to outsmart the enemy. As the law closes in, Kara starts working her contacts, trying to turn the tide. She knows that the key to survival lies in finding allies outside the law, those who still believe in the old Montana ways, the ones who will fight with them for the land and for the truth. Meanwhile, Spencer is not just racing against time, he's racing against an enemy who is watching every move. Whitfield's men are everywhere, and Spencer knows that once he's back in Yellowstone, the true fight begins. His life has always been defined by combat, but this battle is different. This is not just a fight for survival. This is a fight to keep his family's name intact, to keep their legacy alive. If he can't make it back in time, if he can't stop the corruption from tearing apart everything they've fought for, the Duttons could lose everything. As Spencer rides closer to his destination, his mind is filled with a single thought. He has to get there in time. He can't let Whitfield's scheme succeed. The family needs him more than ever, and his return could be the key to ending this war before it destroys everything they hold dear. But with the law closing in, with the betrayal hanging over them, Spencer knows that this fight won't be won with guns alone. This battle requires something deeper, a willingness to fight not just for land, but for the very soul of the Dutton family. As the night grows darker and Spencer gets closer to Yellowstone, the stakes couldn't be higher. What will he find when he arrives? Will he be able to turn the tide in time? Or will Whitfield's influence overtake them, leaving the Duttons broken, their land lost forever? Spencer's return is only the beginning, and the real battle for Yellowstone is about to begin. The sun barely peeks over the horizon as Spencer Dutton finally sees the outlines of Yellowstone Ranch in the distance. His pulse quickens as the weight of the moment sinks in. The home he once thought he had left behind forever now calls to him, its silhouette a stark reminder of everything that's at stake. The ranch is no longer just a piece of land, it's a symbol of everything his family has fought for, a lifeline that must be defended at all costs. His family's legacy is written into the earth itself, and Spencer knows that if he doesn't act swiftly, that legacy could be erased. He doesn't slow his horse as he crosses the boundary of the ranch. The sight that greets him is almost more than he can bear. Ruins, fire-scorched earth, and bodies strewn across the ground. The place he once knew as home is now a battlefield, and his heart aches at the sight. This isn't just a war for land. It's a war for survival, a war that has already claimed so many lives. The air is thick with the stench of smoke, and Spencer can feel the heavy presence of death lingering over every corner of the ranch. The ranch hands, once loyal to the Duttons, now move like ghosts through the ruins. Their faces are drawn with exhaustion, their eyes haunted by the violence they've witnessed. It's clear that the fight isn't over yet, but Spencer knows he can't afford to waste any time. His family needs him now more than ever. With a firm resolve, he dismounts and moves quickly toward the center of the ranch, where Jacob and Kara are waiting for him. Jacob, weathered and grim, stands like a pillar in the middle of the chaos. His face shows the toll of the days and nights he spent fighting, but there's no sign of surrender in his posture. He's holding the line. And now, Spencer has arrived to help him do just that. "What's the plan?" Spencer asks, his voice steady but filled with urgency. He doesn't need to be told how bad things are. The evidence is all around him. What he needs is a direction, a way to fight back. Jacob's eyes meet his son's, and there's a flicker of both relief and sorrow. The war for Yellowstone Ranch has reached its breaking point, but the strategy ahead is murky. The law is now involved, and Jacob knows the fight isn't just against Whitfield and his men. It's against a system that's been corrupted by money and power, and the law, once something the Duttons could rely on, has turned against them. "We're trapped between a rock and a hard place," Jacob admits, his voice low. "Whitfield's got his men and the law on his side. If we can't prove this was self-defense, we'll be branded as criminals. We can't let that happen." Spencer nods, his jaw tight. "Then we fight the way we've always fought, with everything we've got." Jacob considers this for a moment, and then his gaze hardens. He knows Spencer is right. The Duttons have always fought with everything they have, against nature, against rustlers, against any force that threatens their way of life. Now is no different. They'll fight not just for their land, but for their honor. And for their family. But as Spencer surveys the situation, he knows they can't win this war alone. It's a fight that demands allies, people who still believe in the old ways, in the values that made Montana what it is. And while Jacob focuses on organizing the remaining ranch hands, Spencer's mind shifts to something darker, the traitor within their midst. Spencer's thoughts are grim as he moves further into the ranch. The traitor's presence hangs over everything, the shadow of betrayal lingering in every conversation, every interaction. He knows it's someone close to them, someone who knows their every move. The details of the attack were too precise, too calculated for it to be anything else. Whoever it is, they have played a dangerous game, and the longer they stay hidden, the more dangerous they become. "We need to root out the traitor," Spencer says to Jacob, his voice tense. "Someone inside gave Whitfield the information he needed. We can't trust anyone here until we find out who it is." Jacob's expression darkens. He's not surprised by Spencer's assessment. He's been thinking the same thing. But the question remains, who? Who in their midst would betray everything they stand for? Who would hand over the secrets that could destroy their entire way of life? Kara, ever the strategist, joins the conversation. She's been busy making her own preparations, reaching out to old contacts, and quietly working behind the scenes to gather allies. But even she knows that finding the traitor is just as important as rallying the people to their cause. "We can't let our emotions guide us," Kara warns, her voice steady and calm. "If we act on suspicion alone, we'll end up tearing this family apart. We need proof, and we need it fast. Spencer looks at her, his expression hardening. We don't have time for proof. Every moment we waste, Whitfield gets closer to winning. We need to act, and we need to do it now. The tension between them is palpable. Jacob stands in silence, weighing the options. His family is fractured, the pressure mounting with every passing minute. He knows they don't have much time. The traitor must be found before they can turn the tide in their favor. Without knowing who they're fighting from within, their entire strategy is compromised. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the family knows they can't wait any longer. Spencer's arrival may have shifted the balance, but the true battle is only just beginning. The war for Yellowstone Ranch will be fought on every front, on the land, in the courtroom, and behind closed doors where whispers of betrayal and corruption echo. As Spencer turns to join his family, his mind is already working through the next steps. He has no illusions about what lies ahead. The battle will be brutal, but it's a fight he's willing to face head-on. He's not just fighting for the ranch, he's fighting for his family, for everything they've sacrificed. He won't let Whitfield, nor anyone else, take that from him. The stakes are too high. The first part of the fight may have been won with bullets, but the next battle will be one of wits, of alliances, of strategy. Spencer knows this war won't be won easily, but he's ready. He has to be. Because if the Duttons lose now, they will lose everything. And Spencer Dutton is not a man who surrenders. With one last glance at the broken landscape, Spencer moves forward with a single unwavering thought in his mind. The fight for Yellowstone has only just begun. As the day wears on, the atmosphere at Yellowstone Ranch grows heavier. The sun, once a symbol of hope and the promise of new beginnings, now casts long shadows across the land, marking the deepening conflict. The Duttons are on edge, aware that the battle has shifted beyond what they can see. Every movement, every word is now scrutinized for signs of betrayal. The traitor, whoever they may be, remains a phantom among them, an unseen enemy who has already dealt the first deadly blow. Spencer Dutton's thoughts are consumed with finding the source of the betrayal. He's spent enough years on battlefields to know the damage a mole can do. This war, one of manipulation, of legal maneuvering, of deceit, requires a different kind of strategy. This isn't about bullets and violence. It's about uncovering the lies that have been carefully woven into the fabric of their lives. But who can they trust? Who in the Duttons' inner circle has already sold them out? As Spencer prepares to confront the reality of the situation, Kara works tirelessly behind the scenes to strengthen their position. She knows their best chance lies not in force, but in strategy and alliances. The law may have turned its back on them, but there are still others who understand the truth about Whitfield and the lengths he will go to for control. The people of Montana, the ranchers, the landowners, many still carry the memory of a time before money and corruption ruled everything. They remember what it was like when the Duttons stood as the protectors of the land, and Kara plans to make sure they remember it again. She drafts letters, reaching out to those who have held onto the old ways, the ones who know the land and its people. They are her best hope. She speaks of loyalty, of family, of standing together against a common enemy. Her words are calculated, each one crafted to pull on the heartstrings of those who still have faith in justice and honor. In her mind, this is the only way they can fight back. If the law is not on their side, then they must turn the people against Whitfield. The power of the Dutton name may have been tarnished, but the trust and loyalty they once commanded can still be their greatest weapon. Meanwhile, Spencer has taken a different approach. He knows that if they are to survive this, they must confront the traitor directly. The questions plague him. How could someone they trusted, someone who had fought beside them, betray the Duttons? Spencer knows the power of silence, how betrayal often hides behind a smile, behind a well-placed glance. It could be anyone. But who? He starts with the men he's closest to. The ranch hands, the ones who had been at his side in the darkest moments. They are loyal, they always have been, but Spencer knows that loyalty can be bought. Every face, every person feels like a potential threat now. And so he begins to test them, not with accusations, but with questions. Subtle, indirect. He watches for signs, for any flicker of unease, of nervousness. But it's not enough. The silence from the ranch hands is deafening. They all know something, but none of them will speak. Jacob, too, is feeling the weight of the situation. He has led the Duttons through countless trials, but this feels different. This battle is not just against Whitfield, it is against everything the Duttons have built over generations. Their home, their land, their very identity is under siege. The law is not a shield anymore. It's a weapon, twisted and turned against them. And as the sheriff's investigation into the attack intensifies, Jacob can feel the trap closing in. The truth is irrelevant. The story that Whitfield wants to spin is already being written, and it doesn't matter how much they protest. The ranch, once a symbol of defiance, is now being painted as a crime scene. Jacob knows they have to act fast. Every moment spent dealing with the law is a moment Whitfield gains in the courtrooms and behind closed doors. If they don't find the traitor soon, they'll never have the chance to fight back. The enemy is not just at the gates, it's sitting at their dinner table. And Jacob's fear of that is a constant gnawing presence. Spencer and Jacob's relationship, always one of unspoken understanding, has shifted in these tense moments. They both know that their usual methods of dealing with enemies, by sheer force of will, are no longer enough. They need to think differently. The law is now an adversary in its own right, a silent but formidable force that could crush them if they're not careful. As they sit together, their heads filled with the same thoughts, Jacob finally speaks the words that have been on both of their minds. We need to act like a family again. We can't fight this alone. Spencer nods, the weight of his family's survival on his shoulders. It's not just about the ranch, it's about everything we've fought for. If we don't win this, there won't be a Dutton name left to carry forward. Kara overhears this exchange as she steps into the room. She's been working tirelessly to rally support from the community, but she knows that their plan can't depend on others alone. They need to unify their own family first. It's the only way to ensure they have the strength to push back against Whitfield's far-reaching influence. We need the people of Montana on our side, Kara says, her tone resolute. The landowners, the ranchers, the families who've worked these lands for generations. If we stand together, we can take Whitfield down. We can remind him that this land doesn't belong to him. It never will. Her words hit their mark. Spencer knows Kara is right. If they are to survive this, they need the trust and loyalty of those who remember the Duttons as the guardians of the land. And so, with the weight of their future pressing on them, the family comes together with one common goal: to take back control of their destiny. But even as they prepare to fight for their survival, Spencer can't shake the nagging thought in the back of his mind. The traitor is still out there, watching